Let's talk about maintenance. Because in my 30 years of pastoring, I think one of the greatest problems we have with mission is we conflict mission with maintenance. Now this is the challenge, and it's a challenge for every one of us. Large churches, small churches, city churches, rural churches. Our challenge is that we have budgets, programs, and buildings, and we've got to pay the bills. The problem is that our mission becomes maintenance. We've got to keep up the budgets, the programs, and the buildings. The possibility is that we can become, another problem is that we're board-led. Now, I don't mean that for all of the council members here today, board folks here today. Believe me, I've got a word for your pastors as well. But the problem many times is that we have people making financial decisions and ministry decisions about the mission of the church who aren't doing anything. Brother Garner will never let me up here again. Most of our councils get elected, most of our elders get chosen because they have bank accounts and they're business people, but they don't get chosen or elected because they have a heart for mission or ministry. Now, let me show you how this can happen. This is a true story. I've got a friend, pastors a church here in South Georgia. It's not a church of God, so don't look around and try to find him. It's a Southern Baptist church, but believe me, I could say it was a church of God and you wouldn't know the difference. But this church is a major first church in a city here in South Georgia. They have $850,000 in the checking account. And so the board of deacons came to him and said, Pastor, we need to do something for our children. So they decide that they're going to remodel the fellowship hall for a children's center. But they don't go to the children's ministers and ask them what they want and what they need. Instead, they choose a few of the deacons' wives and they spend $250,000 remodeling a 50 by 75 fellowship hall, and they put Brazil hardwood trims and marble floors, and when they get through, they decide they spent too much money and it can't be a children's center after all, it's just going to be a fellowship hall. That's what happens when you have people make decisions who are not involved in ministry. The possibility is that our churches need to be led by people doing ministry. Budgets and buildings are not the goal of the mission, but they are tools of the mission. Let me tell you a little story about how this perspective changes us. 3 or 4 years ago, I was watching the news, the Albany News, there in Bainbridge, and they were telling a story about a fellow in Bainbridge who used to be a retired professional wrestler, in his wrestling days was known as the Black Assassin. Adrian Bivens is a Baptist pastor in the Black Baptist churches there, and he's looking for someone that will give him a facility because he wants to do a ministry to the 20-something-year-old black males. These are street guys. These are guys who've never had fathers in their lives. They've never had mentors in their lives. They're in the game. He's gone to all the black churches in the county, and no one will give him a facility to be able to do ministry to these people. He went to the city. He went to the county. I'm sitting there thinking, I've got a 150 by 100 multi-purpose building in my backyard. So I make a call. Hey, Brother Bivens, I think I've got a place you can use. He comes over, he looks at it, he jumps up and down, ecstatic, excited. You'll let me use this? Absolutely. When do you need it? I'd like to have it on Sunday afternoons between 2 to 6. I said, can you do 2 to 5? He said, yes. I said, you've got it. My intention was to tell my council and to tell my church, but what happened is it got on the radio and television. The next thing I know, all over Bainbridge, Bainbridge Church of God is going to house Layman's Brotherhood Ministry. Well, I had a council meeting, and one of my very fine men came to me. Pastor, we're concerned about this. You're going to have all these gang black young men here at the same time our people are coming to church, and we're afraid we're going to get robbed. We don't know what's going to happen. And you know, Pastor, we're here to represent the people. And I sat up in my chair and leaned forward and very politely, because he's a great man, I said, no, brother, you're not here to represent the people. And he looked at me and said, well, Pastor, if I'm not here to represent the people of the church, what am I doing here? I said, you're here to represent the mission of Jesus Christ. 2 weeks later, another one of my councilmen came to me and said, Pastor, when you told him that, I got mad at you. I was angry with you. But I thought about it for 2 weeks, and you're right. It's not our job to represent the will of the people in this church. It's our job to keep our eyes focused on mission. And now for 3 years, on 3 Sundays every month, we have from 20 to 40, 20-something-year-old young black men coming to our multipurpose building. They don't get counted on any report. Nobody knows about it. But Adrian Bivens is doing a real ministry, touching the lives, because we kept our eyes focused on mission. It's not about maintaining what we've got.